Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young, and we're so glad you joined us today.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's get into it. Hello, people. Welcome back.
Yes, we are glad to be back on the airwaves and connecting with you about couples and money.
Look, we're always glad to press record so that you guys can press play. And we spend time really trying to put together topics that we think that you guys want to hear and that we want to talk about. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting because life gives you all of the information you need to have a really good conversation. And so we keep track of all of that stuff. And sometimes I'm like listening to a book and I got like 5 podcast ideas.
Look, I think as much as we want people to hear and, grow their relationships and grow their finances, I think this is, it's good for us.
It is. I have often said that this podcast is therapeutic, that it gives us a chance to flesh out some things, and it forces us to really talk through our ideas and where we align and what things we think would be really interesting. So this time, I honestly got this I've heard someone say this, that they felt this way or that they were concerned that others would feel this way about their journey. And I thought this would be a really great topic to discuss on our podcast. And so here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Today we intend to talk about how good is too good. Everybody wants to do good, but it's almost like you can't do too good though. Because as they say, haters are going to hate.
Ooh, that part. Because Taylor Swift, she got that thing. She got that thing right.
Well, look, Taylor Swift, she on another level though.
Yeah, she is.
She has turned her haters into, hundreds of millions of dollars.
She sure has. You know what? And I think that's a really valid and good point, is you will have haters no matter what it is you do. Not everybody is going to like what you are up to. But if you can turn that joker around and make dollars around it, that is brilliance.
I'm not mad at Taylor Swift.
That comes out to be almost $1 billion for Miss Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though. We say do good, but not too good. In this social media climate that we live in, everybody looks at Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or you name it, and all they see is like the good, and people are like, well, okay, they're doing good. I want to do good. And, it creates this competitive environment. And people feel like they have to be out doing the same thing. And, it doesn't matter if it's, you're doing well financially or if you're doing well in your relationship. People always see those things. And I just, I object to you do as well as you want to do and as much as you are driven to do.
Yeah.
Be it your money or be it your relationship. Because, we were looking at the definitions and we were talking about jealousy and envy. And jealousy is really hostile towards a rival.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting when you think about that. Like,
yeah,
do people really look at social media and feel like these are my rivals?
If it's something that they want, yes. And when we're talking about money or the perception of what someone has, it's easy, I think, for someone to get jealous and to lash out and say, well, they not all that,
Yeah.
And I remember times when I have literally said, I don't want people to think that I am all that, like, because I really want to be relatable. And I've always been a person, I'm like, I really value relationships. And I feel like it's important that people get to feel like they can have a regular conversation with me no matter what I achieve, no matter what spaces I get to go in and out of. I just want to still feel like people see me and receive me as down to earth. And and relatable. And so that term, you not all that's a trigger for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's good because I think you really pattern to just be down to earth, be, regular, and that's one thing I appreciate about you. But you are all that, girl.
Come on now.
Don't let them
Hey,
people stop you from being great. You be
listen,
you.
I'm not going to let anybody reduce my shine now. But the truth is that, you know, I also have a friend who years and years ago said, the truth is that the only audience you need is God, like the audience of one. And I value that perspective, and I also feel like I want you, my husband, to feel that I am all that. And the rest of them, if they do, great. If they don't, no worries. If you don't think I'm all that, we got problems. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel the same way. I'm like, well, hey, I said yes to you because I believe you are all that. And I want to make sure
Come
that,
on now.
hey, I want to make sure that we're still feeling that way. Like I'm investing in our relationship so that we can both continue to feel that way.
Yeah, I think as we start, looking up the actual definition of jealousy, we always said, we also looked at envy. And envy is resentful and wants what they have.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, dang, man, you could be jealous, like hostility towards something, or you can be envious and wanting what someone has.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? You've heard me say this a million times. And so now you guys will hear me say it as well. And people can only see the outputs. People do not see the corresponding input that you had to, work, or you had to do, or the sacrifices you had to make to create the outcomes that you're able to produce. And people make snap judgments just based off of what they see.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if people go out and they are willing to sacrifice and hustle and grind, or, just be creative and do things to create this outcome that they want, they should be able to reap the benefits of that without people being jealous or envious.
And they ought to be celebrated and praised and appreciated because of the result that they have. Like everybody wants to get somewhere, and everybody somewhere is different. And I want to see people win. And I think if we have to check ourselves to really see, do we want to see people win? Or we just want to see them do a certain level of winning, right? There's a cap sometimes on how good we want people to go, how far we want to see them win. And that's an internal reality check, I think, for a lot of people is, that part helps you determine, is it jealousy? Is it envy? Is it
Yeah.
both?
I think it leads into this first question that I was like really contemplating, and that was, are people really excited for you and want you to do well?
Yeah.
And I asked myself that sometimes, like, I remember there's been instances where I've had friends that have gotten promoted, or they've had great opportunities come their way, or things happen, and I remember like really being genuinely excited for them. No matter where I was in my career or where we were in life, I was like, man, that is awesome for them. And I think I was just truly excited for them because if it was something that I wanted to see happen in my life, I was like, shoot, well, if God would do it for them, he'd do it for me too, because he's no respecter of persons. And it's just good to sometimes see things manifested in life that maybe you are desiring or you are believing, because I've always had the mentality that if they can do it, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes seeing the manifestation of something, be it, an achievement or an accomplishment of a particular role or position or a financial goal that you've accomplished, sometimes seeing people do it, to me, it does the inverse. It's a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, I don't have time to hate. I'm like, shoot, if they can do it, let me get with them
Mm-hmm.
to talk with them and glean from them. And then I can pull from them how I can apply what they did to my life.
Yeah.
And I think if more people took that position, people would truly be happy and excited for you versus like, oh, they think they all that, like you said, or, having that, that hatred kind of towards you. So
I feel like there was this moment I remember distinctly, and I'm not even sure I shared this with you, but when we were kind of fleshing this out, I started thinking about this moment when we actually did get out of debt. And I wrestled with how do I shout this from the rooftops because I'm so excited versus is that going to feel like we're bragging to other people on what we've been able to accomplish? I had this internal struggle, and I specifically remember calling one of my best friends and sharing it with her. But I definitely did not share it from the rooftops because I didn't want to get any negative feedback on or even perceived feedback that people thought that I was bragging. And that was a long time ago. I mean, we got out of debt, a long time ago. And I really feel like it's interesting that we went through that process. We spent 5 years getting out of debt. It was a significant sum, $90,000. And I was so proud of the work that we had to do to get there and the freedom that allowed us. And yet I paused, hesitated, and had to contemplate with whom do I share this information because I'm protecting their emotions. And the thing that I had to get okay with is, hey, I'm doing me, and you and your emotions on what it is that I'm doing, that's on you. I don't have to take responsibility for how you receive what is happening in my life or how God has blessed me. I had to get to that place.
And that's crazy that you even thought like you had to temper your excitement for what we had accomplished to spare someone else's emotions or how they felt about it. It's like they got to deal with that. And I've asked myself at different times, like, man, have I ever been jealous or envious about, something someone else has accomplished? And I think more times than not, I defaulted to what I just said about, like, it motivating me. I think the only times I felt, personally, like, I had a little haterade was, like, when you see the people who are, like, in the world just, doing wrong and they out here prospering. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I want to win.
And that's hard.
Yeah,
That's hard.
but at the same time, I stayed on my journey and I stayed on my grind and I was able to get where I wanted to be, career-wise and us on our debt journey. And though we got out of debt a long time ago, one thing I want to make clear is that we stay on the grind. We stay on the journey because it's not just getting out, it's staying out. And then it's helping others around you to elevate and see them get out and change their lives. So it's not a one and done. It's a one and, keep the process moving because I've seen people get out of debt and then not only go back into debt, but like double up.
Yeah. And that's real talk. I mean, we still have a budget. And the budget helps us to stay out. That is a tool that we use to stay out, stay free of debt, and to plan for the things that we want versus using credit to, do things that we technically are going to take us over what we can actually pay and that kind of stuff. And so we still use a budget. We still look at it. I just looked at that thing today and was working through, what's happening in the coming weeks. And so
it's a planning tool,
that's it.
and it's like when you learn skills that are foundational skills, you don't abandon those. You use those skills and then you build upon them.
Yeah.
And so like we use those, debt reduction and debt elimination skills and we've just built upon them over the years. And now we use budgets as a planning tool. We're more mindful of, okay, what's coming up? Let's have a conversation about it. Are we going on vacation? Okay, we need a budget for spending money or whatever it is. So I look at it as, you have a lot of tools in your repertoire.
Yeah.
Or in your toolbox. And you don't just throw those tools away. What you do is you bring the right tool out for the right job. And over the years, we've just continued to add tools to our toolbox.
That's
so,
good.
I look, don't come here and do no work in my house and leave no tools.
Because you going to take them.
You might not see them again.
No, you definitely won't see them again.
Be like, look, I told you, pick your tools up when you're done.
That's right.
Because if you don't, I've been looking at that little, tool you got there, and it might end up in my toolbox. Is it right? I don't know, but I done warned them. So
You said, I don't know if it's right. Listen, you know when you right and you wrong. You know you should call that contractor and give him his stuff back.
be like, this is one of them life lessons out here.
You gonna teach
Stop
him.
leaving your tools around.
You gonna steal his tool to teach him a lesson.
Wait. Hold on. You didn't cross the line now. You said steal.
Listen, you ain't give it back. What is it called, babe?
I ain't take it.
Oh,
Moving on.
Oh, it's
anyway.
It's not thievery if you didn't actually take it away from them.
Wow.
I'm like, listen, come on now.
Next subject.
Hold on. Listen, the contractor can do good, but not too good. Listen, I'm gonna give it back at you, baby, back at you.
It's funny talking about this because it's been those situations when we talked about, are people like really happy for you, or is it like false happiness and they really want to see you fall off? And look, I ain't naming no names, but I remember that someone in my past, it came across as like false happiness. And that, they were like, okay, well, how you doing so well, or what's going on? And like, I felt like they were doing this internal comparison game, and I was just questioning
if this is real,
right? And I was just doing my thing, young guy out on the grind, on the hustle. I was early in my sales career, and I was like, look, I'm just doing me, man. You've been doing you these years, but I could tell like that there was some deep down, I don't know, like some resentment, or more so, I think regret for them and the decisions and choices that they had made. And it made me a little sad because I was like, well, I feel bad that you have regret about choices that you've made, and that regret becomes resentment towards me versus genuine happiness.
Because you got a chance to realize some of the things that person may be past being able to do something about. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And you know what I was thinking about with all of this is just about 6 years ago, I feel like I found my people. I found a community where financial wins are celebrated, encouraged, people get excited. And so while there may be spaces where folks can't handle the truth, you can't handle the truth, there are spaces where people are excited for you genuinely and
willing to help you.
Yeah. So when I found FinCon for the first time 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I just was so thrilled that people were honest about, how it is to be in business where, you're talking about money matters and you're, really pushing up.
And people were like sharing like information openly. It wasn't like they were validating. Like if they said they were doing this, they were validating it.
Yeah. And they're like pushing up against the status quo. You know what I mean? Like what is normal in America? Because sometimes I would feel lonely on this. I don't like credit card debt, or I don't need a car payment. There were things that made me feel like, well, dang, girl, you doing too much, right? Again. And that circle, that community was really powerful for a lot of different viewpoints. Some people in that community use credit cards regularly to get, travel points and things like that. And then when we found the economy community, where these are people who are all about FIRE, financial independence, retire early, I realized that there's an even deeper level, I think, of folks who are super committed to.
These are regular, everyday people just trying to create that live now kind of life.
Yeah.
To live the life that they want now without having to work for years or work doing things that they may not enjoy. So I found that community interesting as well.
Yeah. And they celebrate when you get to your freedom number. And that's different for every person. It's not a specific number for everybody. It's something that's unique to you. And so I think part of it is just knowing where you can share, where you're going to get support and all of that good stuff, because there will be haters, and in certain communities, things will be celebrated. And I think that is a huge and important lesson, is that not everybody can handle what it is you're doing in your journey and the way that you're doing it. And if you can find folks who can support you and will celebrate you, hey, let's be about those communities.
Look, I think this episode today is really more about, where locating where you are, locating how you are going to move in the face of whatever is coming up. Because, like I said, for me, I look at people winning as, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. Let me get motivated. Let me try and glean from them and learn from them. And just like with the example you just shared, there's communities of people out there that will support you on your drive, on your journey. And you got to just find those communities, find those people, because like we talked about in the past, iron sharpens iron, and so it really is one of those things where we say, do good, but not too good. Look, we're really being facetious. I want to see everybody do extremely well. Not just do good, do great.
Yeah. And do it within your own sphere of what that looks like. Don't measure your goodness or how far you go based on somebody else. That is a terrible measure, because honestly, everybody has a different set of cards that they're dealt, capacity and goals and interests, and so it shouldn't be based on anyone else but what it is that you desire.
You're over there dropping knowledge on that
Come
side
on
of the
now.
table.
Listen. So let me ask you this. Do you feel like doing, like, a lot of the things that we have shared here on this podcast can come off like we got it all figured out, right? Like, and that could create someone saying, do good, but come on now, don't be doing all that. Y'all doing too much. Do you feel like it could come across like that?
Look, well, I'm going to take a commercial break right now. And what I'm going to say is that we don't have it all figured out, people. We still work through things, we still have challenges and struggles, and we're just trying to take it day by day. And I think that we have put a string of good days together and gained enough experience that we can share some of our experiences. Now, look, what you choose to do with them is up to you. We're going to keep doing us, and we're going to keep stringing good days together. And even when bad days get mixed in there, we're not going to let those stop us from moving forward. And so I don't even look at it as, knowing it all, because by far there is too much out there to know. And if anyone says they know it all, you already know what you're dealing with.
Right. I feel like the thing that I usually say to people is life isn't perfect. And so your journey won't be perfect. Your budget won't be perfect. The way that you plan your month for your, the way that you do life, it's not going to be perfect. And so I think if we can manage our expectation and change the narrative from perfection, like you say, to progress instead, and think about what it is we're trying to accomplish in that moment, that's really what matters. And my hope is that we, are giving information that is helpful for folks, no matter where they are on their journey. And we want to balance that with what we have learned and where we have struggled, and maybe some best practices that have helped us to get to where we want to be.
Look, I wish that, 25 years ago when we first got married and we were starting out, I wish there were some people who could just give it to us straight up, and who were willing to share openly about challenges, struggles, successes, wins that they've had that could serve as, guide points for us, and that could help us move even faster.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things we had to kind of figure out along the way. We're driving the car and we're putting the parts on as we're going, building the car as we're moving out. So I feel like this is an opportunity for us to do the classic pay it forward. Just say, hey, we've been there, done that, and we have some experience to stand on that we're willing to share and provide to others to help their journey be a little bit easier.
So I want to just talk about what I feel is kind of the elephant in the room. You ready to go there?
I don't even know where you're going with this. So
Well,
I might have to mute my mic here in a
oh
second, people.
Lord, oh Lord. No. It's not bad. But when we launched our podcast, we were on Anthony O'Neill's YouTube channel on his podcast.
Oh man, I know where you're going now.
Yes, sir. And we shared some things about where we were on our journey. And in a nutshell, it was we got out of debt and we were able to amass a net worth of over $1 million. And that is a very direct and pointed look at what we've been able to accomplish. And for others, it could be, oh, shoot, do good, but listen, don't be doing all that. Don't be doing too good. And we made a conscious decision. We talked about, do we really want to share that? Because that's not like the exact number. It's not like everybody knows our business. They know a piece of our story. And I think that we had to make the decision on letting that truth come out. And I feel like it is a much more powerful message when you tell details that help people understand this is where we came from and this is where we are. And you can also have similar results.
Yeah, I think initially I definitely had some trepidation.
Yes, be honest. I
had
appreciate
some
that.
trepidation because it's like you win the lottery and people you didn't know start coming out like, hey, can I get a little something? Can I hold a little something? Cause
Okay, but you know what? How many times when your kids get a new paycheck or a tax return or somebody done came into some money, you like, can I hold $100? I have heard that a million times out of you. Okay.
Well, I've changed that now. It's like, can I hold 10 racks?
See, now, so it's true because people do come out of the woodwork.
Right. And so I had trepidation, but I had more conviction that it was the right thing to do because there's people who need to hear and see, regular people who work regular jobs, do regular things, start businesses that were in the hole were able to, kind of buckle down and accomplish some big things, by getting out of debt at an early age and then, working systematically to grow and build wealth. And so I think that's the big part of launching out. Sometimes you launch out into the deep and it might feel a little uncomfortable, but after a while, that discomfort begins to change. And I think it begins to go away and you become more confident in deep water and you learn how to navigate, you learn how to swim and, then you start to go out and do things that maybe you hadn't done before. And so I feel like it's easier to show people than it is to tell people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can show you what I've done versus just telling you what I've done because the proof is in the pudding.
The other thing is, let's just talk about this because you said it in the very beginning. People don't see the work that goes into the end result that they see, the shiny object at the end. And for us, we spent 5 years getting out of debt, right? We have been married nearly 25 years, and I'll be doggone if as a financial coach, is professionals in the work that we're doing, if in 25 years we can't amass more than $1 million. Come on now. And so it is proof that we do what we say we're going to do. It is the integrity that follows what it is that we're up to. And so I think that we have a responsibility to actually show that what we say works.
Look, it's validation.
It is.
It's validation of the things that can happen if you put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
Because people didn't see all the times we said, no, we weren't going to do this, or no, we weren't going to do that, or no, we weren't going to vacation at this time or at this particular level to ensure that one, we got out of debt, or two, we got our emergency savings up, or three, that we were going to sacrifice and make sure that we were maxing out our investments at work, People don't see any of that.
Mm-hmm.
All they see is like, oh man, the headline, and the headline draws them in.
Sure.
But then it's like, okay, here you saw the headline, but here now let me give you some of the concepts, some of the principles that support the headline.
Right.
That if you follow these things, you too can have that outcome.
Yeah.
Because especially when we talk about people of color or underrepresented populations, we know that savings are not huge, and I just want to see that shift. I want to see people not only have emergency savings, I want to see them have retirement savings, I want to see them have paid for homes, and that creates and builds generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can see a shift and a change in the tide of underrepresented populations going from not enough to significant and significantly having more than enough and creating generational wealth, and not just passing the wealth on, but passing on the concepts, the principles, the fundamentals that the next generation can embrace, we can see systemic change in what's out there.
Yeah, you just went real deep. And I mean, I think it's real significant. I think it's real significant, and I definitely believe that it speaks to why we share what we share. And you know what's interesting is a few years back, I really want to say it was about 5 or 6 years ago. No, it wasn't 6 years ago. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. Um, and I had, for the very first time, created a vision board. Um, and the vision you just cast, the ideas that you just shared, is a lot of what I put on that board. It was at a women financial coaches retreat. And if you're listening, any of you, this is where that started. But I had this vision years prior, but I had never done a vision board. I, hear about these things all the time, and I just never really did it. But in that moment, it was important to me to write down what mattered. And one of my goals was to, have our assets, or actually our investments themselves, to hit 1 million, and by a certain time. And we were close, but not quite there at that point. And that was important to me. And that was the first time that I actually, in a sense, verbalized it to someone other than you, and put it on a paper so that I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't take much longer after that. It was literally about 1.5 years later where we hit that milestone. And I think that focusing on something and casting the vision and getting clear about what you need to do in order to get there is important to reaching your goals. And so that helped. Like, it helped me get very comfortable with the idea that it could happen by the time I wanted to, and I could verbalize this type of goal without feeling bad doing so. And I think that is important for people to consider, that your goals are worth, taking that time and making them a high priority and visualizing it for yourself.
That right there, that's good stuff, because you're talking about how you found something that served as a motivator for you, and how you catapulted that motivation into some realities for you, and by in turn for us.
Absolutely.
So,
and it keeps you on track. Like, that's the whole thing, is the vision should keep you on track.
that's right. And I think as you guys are listening, if you find yourself dealing with jealousy or envy, you really have to ask yourself some questions and begin to consider, really find out what's at the core of that challenge, or you feeling that way. Because is this something that you're dealing with, or is this something that you feel like somebody's out flossing or showboating? And still, that's something that you have to deal with. It's not them, because people are going to do what they do. And we are responsible to how we respond to it.
And I would also add, protect yourself. Protect yourself when you see something and it makes you feel a way. One, like you said, do that internal analysis on where is this coming from. But if you can't handle that, it's okay to unfollow, unsubscribe, do something different, get your mindset right. I've had, situations where I've had to, get out of a particular community and or unfollow because it wasn't good for me mentally.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
Yes, and I honestly feel so much better not seeing the stuff that was triggering. Like it was a split second decision when I realized I needed to protect myself in that way, but it has really been very, very helpful. So I highly encourage you, if you feel triggered in any way, one, understand why and where that's coming from, but two, you can shift the content that is coming into your life.
Look, you need to ask yourself if you can use that emotion to serve as a motivator for you to get you into action. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I leaned into earlier, is that I look at people's successes or wins and I let that serve as motivation. Like, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. I had confidence and belief in myself, and I was willing to challenge and drive myself in certain ways. So I feel like that's another thing you have to do.
Yeah. And I would say, think about the challenger. So you could have an opponent that is a challenger. You can have someone close to you that is a challenger. This is a person who could really be the catalyst to get you to your own freedom, right? And this is a person who bumps up against, what you feel you're doing, and just really honestly, it puts that competitive spirit in your mind. Like, oh, if they can do it, like you said, if they could do it, I could do it. Or I'm not about to let anybody keep me from what I need to be doing. And again, that could be someone who is close or not close to you, but whatever the case, you're learning from that moment that it is challenging me to go higher. Let's go higher. Utilize those moments to ensure that you're getting where you need to be.
So look, people, we're going to talk about make it worth it. And for me, I'm going to keep it real simple. I've got one make it worth it point. Be honest with yourself. Because if you're honest with yourself, you will evaluate where you are. And if you are hating, or if you are jealous or envious, be honest with yourself and decide how you're going to move forward. Mm-hmm. Are you going to use that as a motivation, or are you going to allow that to be something that causes you to stumble? So real simple, be honest with yourself.
That's good. And I'll keep mine simple as well. Don't be a perpetrator of, do good, but not too good. You don't be the hater, right? We're going to have haters out here. People, everybody is not listening to For Better and Worth, right? But you do not be the perpetrator of that. Let's figure out how to uplift one another, encourage one another, and challenge each other to be the very best. And if you can do the opposite of being a hater, let's go for that.
Let's go out here and get this generational wealth and continue to elevate people.
Let's go. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, we're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up for our email on forbetterandworth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.